Ortiz y Pino with More Than Organized here. Just getting set up for another Q&A session. I do these every month on the second Thursday at 5 p.m. Mountain Time, which is 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And I just show up here on Facebook Live on the More Than Organized page and answer organizing questions. So tell your friends, share the feed, and bring some friends to the party, and we'll hang out here for a little while and get your questions answered. I just want to show. So you have the option of commenting in the comments, and then I can see them here on my my software. I can answer the questions from there. In the meantime, if you want to check out other free resources that are available, you can visit morethanorganized.net and get a copy of, there's several free items on there. There's the 1-minute mail solution kit, which is particularly handy if you struggle with keeping paper and information organized, or your email inbox. The same process applies to email as it does to regular mail. So that's available there. There's also a PDF of 5 ways to declutter fast. So if you're trying to declutter and have been struggling with that, there's some suggestions there. And I have free simplicity tips on the website as well. So be sure to head over to morethanorganized.net after this session and check out what's going on over there. All right, so here we are with some Q&As. I don't see anyone here live yet, but just so you know, I can see your comments when you post them. So be sure to post your questions there, and then I can answer them. Okay, let's see. See, I can do this as well. Hello. I do have a couple questions that came in via email. So one of the other things you can do when you head over to morethanorganized.net is to sign up for any of those things you sign up for. Also put you on the email newsletter list, and so you get an email in your inbox reminding you about these Q&A sessions and a chance to reply and ask your question via email if you're not going to be able to join live, and then you can watch the replay later so you can see your questions answered. So that's something to think of for the future as well. Okay, so just talking about some of the things that have come up. There's a couple kind of, one's a productivity and homekeeping tip that really has a lot to do with being organized and how you think about being organized. So someone asked if I had any questions or if I had any suggestions about how to deal with groceries and going to the store, and in terms of inventory and meal planning. And this is really interesting. This is something I did years ago, and it saves me so much time and effort. And granted, I don't have kids or a large family or anything like that. So it's just me, but you just have to expand it to your size. So it's a very scalable system. But the thought process behind how I suggest dealing with groceries is very similar. So the first thing I did was kind of take inventory of what were the things I ate regularly and the ingredients I would need to make those things. And I made a shopping list of those things. And so I would go grocery shopping once a month for the staples, the things that go in the pantry, and I would just need to make various things. Then I would go weekly to pick up the perishables, the veggies and the meat and the dairy stuff if I needed it. So it became much easier. I could schedule my grocery trips. I could get very efficient about where I was finding things in the store because I was buying the same things over and over and over. So while, yes, I love food and I like trying some new things, and I like a lot of different things, I tend to eat the same things over and over and over at home for a couple of reasons. One, it saves tons of time. If you take away a bunch of your choices for what should I have for breakfast today when you're at home, and you leave yourself with, I can have oatmeal, or I can have yogurt, or I can have a piece of toast, it's much easier to not use up all your decision juice first thing in the morning by just knowing what you're going to eat at home. I eat eggs and bacon and stuff out when I go out for breakfast a couple times a week with my family. So it just saves time to always have just the key ingredients you need for whatever it is. I also eat almost the exact same thing for lunch every day. So I have a supply of that lasts pretty much all month. And that way I don't have to run out to the store in emergency situations as often, if at all. There's sometimes I don't have to go at all in between my monthly trip and the next time I go on my monthly trip for the staple stuff. Does that help a little bit with the groceries? The other thing you can do is if you think about your pantry as an ingredients storage area, it becomes a mini grocery store within your house. That's why if you take the time to think it through ahead of time, you can save a lot of time by having the regular ingredients in the cupboard. And that way it's much easier to make a pot of rice and beans and serve a couple good meals with just rice and beans, because you have the rice in the canister and you have several cans of beans or some dried beans available at all times. And so you can make things easily in the crock pot or on the fly. And it can take a lot less time to actually prepare a couple quick meals than it can to go all the way through the drive-thru at a fast food place. So keep that in mind as well. If you have the ingredients, it's easier to make your meal. Okay. So the second part of, or I guess the third part of how I deal with groceries and food and meal planning is I went through all my cookbooks several years ago and all of the recipes I had clipped, because we all do it. You see a recipe somewhere in a magazine or a newspaper or online and you go, that sounds really good. And then if you're like me, I'm a little bit picky. And so I would say, that sounds really good, except for that one ingredient. I need to adjust that. So how am I going to adjust it? And so I would set it aside and then I'd go, I'd have to play with that. So I think through about, hey, Tamara, how are you? So I like to think through why I have 27 different versions of a recipe for pork roast. Why don't I just try a bunch of them and pick my favorite and keep that? And that way I know which ingredients I need for when I want to make a pork roast in the crock pot, right? So I spent a little bit of time actually trying out some of the recipes I'd clipped to see if I liked them better than the one I was already doing. So that's the other way you can get rid of a bunch of recipes that you've clipped, and you can clean out your cookbook area, and you can have the right ingredients available in your pantry as well. And they just get added to your regular grocery list. Okay, so I hope that helps with the groceries and the meal planning. All right. So Tamara's asking, do I have any tips for staying organized while on the road? When I travel for longer lengths of time, I plan to do laundry so I don't have to pack as much. Are there other things I can do? Yes. There's a few different things, but when I travel, I like to think of kits. So instead of buying all travel sizes and little tiny things that you have to refill or you keep in your bag all the time, and then sometimes you go travel and you run out halfway through your trip because it wasn't full because you haven't had it in there since the last time. I actually have a standard set of bottles of all the regular things I use, and I refill them with my regular products that I know work and will work day in, day out in a variety of circumstances. I take most of my capsule wardrobe. So I have a couple pairs of pants and a skirt, and then I mix in tops that mix and match and layer. And so I have much more variety. I don't take a whole lot of pairs of shoes. I take like my two most versatile pairs of shoes. So that's one of the ways. Like I try to just make what I do at home miniature. So there's a great blog post on my website all about how to pack for twice as long and half the space. And it's kind of the same thoughts, but you can check it out there. I don't know, if you want to follow up question and see if you have a more specific. So sometimes just a tip for overall travel packing is kind of harder to answer than if you ask me something super specific. But I do like kits. So the other thing I do is I have lots of little bags. So this one's all my cords for when I travel for speaking gigs, but I do the same thing with all my toiletries and stuff. So one's for my face, one's for my body, one's for my teeth, and one's for my hair. And so I have just little kits, but they're with my regular products in them. That way it's easy to pack and to, especially if you're traveling to several different locations on the same trip, it's easy to not overlook something in the hotel room because you know it's your regular stuff. And then you can put, I have a little kit that goes on the nightstand that has my lip balm and my hand lotion and some Advil, just in case. And so I always know that I have all my bases covered, and they pack really fast, and you can tell really fast what you forgot. It also tends to fit in your suitcase more easily because you're packing them in the same way every time. So all my kits just kind of line up along the bottom of the suitcase, and then all the clothes go on the top half. Hope that helps. All right. Yeah, don't use the travel filled bottles tomorrow. They're a pain in the ass. So, okay, Giovanna, hi. Let's see. What's the best way to tackle decluttering the kitchen? Oh, this is a good question. I haven't had a kitchen question in a long time. So this is two kitchen questions today. Decluttering the kitchen, I take one cabinet, one cupboard, one drawer at a time, and I go through each shelf and eliminate as much as possible. So expired foods and supplements go. Anything that's been open too long and stale goes. Anything. So that's how I do the food. And then I group like things together. So food items are stored with like things together like they are at the grocery store. So breakfast items, baking items, canned goods, dried goods, that kind of thing. But for the actual pots and pans and utensils and things, I just one at a time, I eliminate anything that I can eliminate from that cabinet. And then I go to the next cabinet. And then I start thinking about, oh, wait, I had some baking stuff over there. And then 3 cabinets or 3 shelves later, I had some more baking stuff. So I group the like things together. So all baking things together, all pots and pans together, all flatware for eating together, plates together, all of it. Plasticware and ceramic and glass and metal, anything you have that is that category. Like, is it a plate? Is it a utensil? Is it a baking dish? Whatever the material, I put them all together. Because especially these days, after the 90s when everyone went crazy with housewares, I find a lot of my clients have duplicates of things, but they're different materials, so they aren't thinking of them as duplicates. So you might have a metal lasagna pan that's actually a cake pan, but you also have the whiteware version of Corningware, and then you have the Corningware clear glass version of it, and then you might have it in 4 sizes. And so that's where you start to end up with too many duplicates. So if you know that, okay, this is a pan that goes in the oven and I can cook things in the oven, I can bake or roast in the oven in this pan, then you have a lot more flexibility of which one is my favorite one to use. And I can use it for brownies or lasagna or a cake or a chicken. You start eliminating a lot of things that are specifically for something in the kitchen. There's always a lot of super specific things. But if you take the kitchen and just do it really slowly, one drawer at a time, not slowly per se, but section at a time, instead of trying to pull everything out all at once, it's much easier. I also, when I do kitchens, like to clean as I go, because inside of cabinets can get pretty gross in the kitchen. Not intentionally, but crumbs fall in and you're cooking when you're grabbing something out of the drawer, and so something else might get sticky or whatever. And if you have a gas stove and or you do a lot of frying, there's always a little bit of grime and grit on almost every surface of every kitchen. So take the time to clean it as well. What else about the kitchen? I always like, kitchens are also one of those areas people like to store things by shape or size instead of by use. And there's a lot of funky cabinet spaces these days. So try as much as possible to get the stuff, you use together. So kitchens can come down to several zones. There is the food storage zone, the ingredient storage, the preparation of your food, so the actual assembly of your food, the cooking of the food. So once it's prepared and combined, it has to actually get some heat or some cold on it to make it work. And then the serving, so how you put it onto the plates and take it to your table. And then the food storage afterwards, how you store the leftovers, and then the cleanup. And so if you think in those terms, it makes it a lot easier to figure out where to place things. It's much easier to think of placing your dishes near the dishwasher, where you both have to put them in the dishwasher and take them out to put them away. But you also want to serve on your plate. So you want it between the dishwasher and the stove, or between the dishwasher and the dining room table or the kitchen table. Does that make sense? You want to limit your steps as much as possible, and so store like things together. All right. Let's see. Okay, store by use. Yes, bakeware. So one of the other things I do, I don't necessarily want to, well, heck, let's try it. I may tank the broadcast. The lighting's going to get weird. You're going to get to see something that I do that's one of those weird kitchen tips. Not everyone likes it or thinks of it, but then once they do it, it becomes great. All right, so we're here in my kitchen. I won't be able to show you exactly, but here is my food prep and measuring thing. I have one set of cup measures, and one set of what are they called? Spoon measures, and one liquid, and my mixed master beaters. And it's all in one thing, and it's in a drawer. And so when I go to bake or cook or prep or measure, it's all right here next to my stove. All right, so little things like that too, just group it together. Most people have that stuff with their bakeware way across the kitchen, but you use the measuring spoons and stuff with all kinds of cooking, baking, and other things. So that's one way of looking at it as well. And it makes it really obvious when, oh, that plastic set of measuring cups doesn't actually have the third cup measure anymore. Maybe I should invest in a new one. I'm also a real big fan of the best tool for the job that you can afford in your kitchen. So notice I had all stainless steel and glass, and I've had those, going on 20 years, and they still look great and they still work great, and I haven't had to replace them because I bought something that would last. So that's another tip there. Other things in the kitchen that can make it real easy, if you store a lot of supplements and medicines and things, make sure it's not over the stove or near steam. And as much as you can, group it by kind. So all the vitamins, all the medicines, all the pain relievers, all the stomach stuff, all the cold and flu, that kind of thing can help keep that stuff organized. I like setting up a drink area as well. So my coffee station, there's the coffee, the tea, and the hot chocolate all right there. Breakfast area, it depends. Like if you have kids too, you might want to set up a couple lower things where the kids' utensils and plates and cups and stuff are, but integrate it into the adult stuff as soon as you possibly can. Okay. Ooh, the fridge. Mm-hmm. I may not be the best person to talk to you about your fridge because I don't eat vegetables, so I don't have to deal with that. But I do have the other things. So I have one shelf that's taller because I use a lot of milk. And it also holds my iced tea pitcher and wine if I have it, and my beer. So my beverages are all on one shelf. And then I have one shelf that's kind of dedicated to the leftovers or the stuff I cook. So typically once a week I make something in the crock pot, and then I eat it several times during the week. And so the leftover bin of that stuff, all that stuff tends to go on one shelf just because I know that's what I got to eat first. I keep a lot of cheese and then the staples, eggs and butter and Parmesan and yogurts are my staples. So it's all kind kind of in one spot that's rotated. But it's like the grocery store. I literally line up my yogurt all in the same place every single time I buy yogurt. I have all the condiments in the bottom shelf of the door. I have the butter and cheese all on one area of the shelf, and then I have like lunch meat and any other random stuff I've picked up on another shelf. So it's kind of grouped together like it would be at the grocery store. I tend to just not have anything in my crisper drawers because I don't do vegetables. But that, you just add that in to that section there. Yes, and I know it's weird that I don't eat vegetables. Okay, stuff on the shelf. Yeah, oh, they're making their own lunch. All right, Giovanna, that's great. Her kids make their own lunch. Fantastic. All right, what else you got? You guys got any more follow-up questions? Am I good? Thank you guys for showing up. This was good to have the interaction. It makes it more fun than me just reading questions from the other stuff. So if you guys are good on those, I do have one more question that came in via email this morning. Kristen wanted to know, how long do you have to keep the records of closed accounts, i.e. credit cards and mortgages? Okay, so this depends. Mortgages, 7 years from the closing date because of tax purposes. The credit cards are different. You don't have to keep them at all unless you deducted anything on that particular statement as tax deductible, in which case you can save either the statement or the receipt. You don't need both. So I tend to keep just my statements and not worry as much about receipts, but you may be the other way around. Does that make sense? You don't, and once it's closed, you only have to keep it as long as the tax thing. So it would be the 7 years. And I say 7 years because the law is actually 1 year longer than your state requires, and every state has a different amount of time, but the longest one is 6 years. So federally, it's 7 years is the longest amount you would have to keep it. But some of us live in a state that you don't actually have to keep it that long, but it's up to you how you want to deal with it. I just say 7 so I don't have to keep it straight for all 50 states of the people I work with. So that's something too. But really, you need to keep very little of the paperwork. I would say, especially if you could take your credit card stuff online and just download the statements every month, you're good to go. And then you don't really have to worry about it as much. Oh, I miss you too, Tamara. Can't wait to see you. You're going to be here soon, right? Right? Okay. Well, that's all the questions I have. You guys got anything else? Okay. Well, I guess we'll do this again next month. I'll give it just one more second. Oh, I want to check one more area. There's one place I asked if anyone had questions that I can't see from this software that I will double check and see if a question came in. Let's see. No questions there. All right. I guess we're done. All right. Tomorrow, call me as soon as you're here. And otherwise, I will. Oh, new question. Look at you sneaking that in last second. Any resources for my friend's daughter who just started organizing? I think she's 10. Like to teach her how to organize? I would probably, I'm not sure. By 10, I was already reading like full-on organizing books like Stephanie Winston and stuff. But I would probably, I don't know. This is good. I might have to get back to you on this one. Organizing at age 10. You know, actually, my colleague Lisa Woodruff over at Organize 365 actually has a bunch of kids that follow her podcast. It's called Organize 365. And she might want to start listening to that. It's pretty good. We don't do things exactly the same way, but everything she recommends is solid. And so that might be a fun place to start, just because Lisa does address kids' issues quite often, and has good tips for them, helping out in terms of the whole family dynamic of organizing. So I would recommend that. Other than that, she could read my blog. There's lots of ideas there as well. So yeah, if she has other more specific situations, like if she's dealing with ADD or anything like that, there's quite a few items. But I would just start checking out podcasts and the internet, and maybe Google organizing for kids or something. And anything written by a colleague of mine that's a member of the National Association of Professional Organizers, I can vouch for is going to be pretty good, at least rooted in some good practices, even if it's not necessarily the same approach I take. But that's what I would do there. Okay. Thanks for dropping by, you guys. Tell all your friends. Next month will be, what is that date next month? October. So note to self, don't buy a calendar for your wall that has light gold lettering. You can't see it across the room, just so you know. The 13th of October will be the next time we do one of these sessions. So join me again then. And in the meantime, have a delightful day. Thanks. Bye.